Thanks everyone for taking the time today. I'm Connor Heaton, SRM's AI and intelligent automation expert. Larry is out on PTO today. And I'm excited to have here with me Manish Sharma, the COO of Rezolve.ai, a generative AI first IT service management platform. Manish has over 2 decades of experience in senior management roles at global organizations, working on topics like employee experience, service delivery models, learning development, and AI adoption. And he'll be here talking about a variety of topics related to generative AI, as well as sort of the next generation of IT service management tools. So with that, unless there are any questions, Manish, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate the introduction and thanks for having me here today. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And I'm hoping to have an interesting conversation for next 30-40 minutes about what's happening in the space of Gen AI, which I suppose nobody can get away from it now, can you? You go to any event, you go to any place, there's one topic that's guaranteed to be there. I was there last week earlier this week actually at an event, and only one topic had people jam-packed the rooms. The rooms were full for that topic, and guess what? It was Gen AI. So happy to be here and talk about this topic and give my perspective on this. With that being said, let me get started with a small presentation, and feel free to ask the questions as per Connor's guidance when we can do that. All right, the topic that we are talking about today is Gen AI and employee support. So Gen AI is a vast topic. You can do a whole lot of things with it. We are talking a little bit more about employee support. And we are going to talk about how, in general, the support landscape is going to change because Gen AI is coming into the picture. So, typically support for senior management means a little bit of a headache, right? Like that's where the employees are always saying, hey, we are not getting the right support, or it took me so long, it took me 7 hours to get such a simple thing, I was on the phone, what have you. So you get a lot of friction, what I like to call enterprise friction, because of the employee support area. And generally, what does not happen is that you treat employee support like a cost center, and it is not a source of a competitive advantage for you. So it's a problem to be fixed, not a competitive, not an area which can help you excel and be better than your competitors, or really make an efficient organization. If you look at the legacy support models, there what happens was you're making phone calls, you're writing emails, and you are using any other method except for maybe self-servicing, right? Like the data shows 80 to 85% of the time, people get help by any other method other than self-service. So that means they're not able to find the information that they're looking for. They're not creating tickets on their own. Everything is happening in the way that is not efficient. But I think that can change. And we are changing that already. And Gen AI is helping us change that. How? So first of all, you got to change how you're thinking about employee support. So employee support needs to put employees in the middle. Very often, employee support has service desk in the middle. You're thinking service desk and service desk products, and that is a piece that you put in the middle, not the employees. And I think we need to change that. We need to put employees in the middle and say, what do they need? Where do they want to get served, et cetera, to actually redesign this entire process. Second is, obviously, you're going to use Gen AI. Now, the most common way you think about Gen AI is knowledge management, right? And which is indeed, an important part of how Gen AI is used. But today I'm going to show you how Gen AI is used in other areas as well. So unlocking the enterprise knowledge is obviously, in my humble opinion, task number 1 for Gen AI. That's the first and foremost use case, no questions asked. But after that, there's many more things that Gen AI can do very specifically, even in case of employee support, and we are going to talk about that a little bit. The third thing is, you need to provide the access to people where they are. And nowadays, people are in Microsoft Teams, maybe Slack, right? So I think the thought process of a portal where you had to go to a portal to get help, that process is on its last leg, in my opinion. If 5 years from now, you're not going to see portals, right? Especially support portals. You are going to go to Teams and all the information that you want is right there. So why would you go to a portal for example? Also, the automation, right? Automation workflows that need to be built right behind this interface are also available now, and they are playing a big part in how this entire new channel is being perceived. You need a product that can play with other enterprise apps. Let's say your ERP system, your CRM system, your different kind of systems that you have. Can the bot, your HRIS system, can the bot and the support system that you have interact with the ecosystem that's working with? Because if you play alone, if you go to the old legacy ticketing system, these were ticketing systems that were sitting in silo. They were on their own. I'm a ticketing system and I'm sitting here and I help you create tickets and I help you track tickets. That's not what is required anymore. People are asking for more. And like I was saying, Gen AI is not just about unlocking enterprise knowledge, but it has to be the fabric of all applications that we're developing in future. So I'm going to show you some examples today of how we are using Gen AI besides knowledge management. And I truly believe in future, which is starting anytime now, is a place where applications will be very different from what the applications have been so far. And that is going to stand true for all applications. Now, the speed at which they change might change, but applications are going to be different, all applications, in my opinion, from where we stand today. And in case of Rezolve.ai, we go a little bit beyond employee support, we go to employee engagement as well. Okay, so before we go into some details, right, the question is, what is generative AI? And I think intuitively all of us know what is generative AI. We have been playing with ChatGPT, most of us, right? I'm surprised every day by the examples I get by people, how people are using ChatGPT. And this is the Forrester definition. I pulled it out, just as a point of reference in case someone wants to look at it. But and this is the difference that I find between Gen AI and the legacy AI or traditional AI. But I'll tell you the story how I think I find the difference between Gen AI and legacy AI. 5 years ago or 6 years ago, when we launched this company as a regular AI company, AI obviously has been improving even before Gen AI. But when we launched, people were very excited about this product, right? There's going to be AI, there's going to be chatbot, it's going to be amazing. And when they use the product, not only ours, but any other product, they will they'll be left wanting. They will say things like, well, wouldn't it understand if I type like this? And we'll have to explain to them, yeah, but you have typed 3 sentences and the bot can't understand 3 sentences. Very difficult to find out the intent in 3 sentences, right? Stuff like that. So we'll have to do things like that. And they were like, okay, if that's what you say, AI is okay, we'll deal with that. But the truth is, that was a little bit less than what they expected intuitively from AI to be. And today, Gen AI, in my opinion, has bridged that gap. Gen AI is the AI that you expected in 2016, right? You wanted in 2016. Connor, I think you have a comment there, right?
Yeah, I think that's just a really good point to draw out. And I imagine a lot of the folks on the call have encountered that, where they got a sales pitch for conversational AI at some point. It'll interact in a natural way. Your customers will barely know the difference. They'll really like interacting with the automation, only to sort of discover the limitations and the technical challenges of really understanding what someone wants if they haven't really internalized and learned how to appropriately interact with that type of technology. And the newer generation of large language models does do a much better job on that front, and it's just tremendously more flexible. So it's too early to say that sort of that promise is completely realized, but it's absolutely getting there at speed, right?
Yeah.
And so we're seeing this more and more in the marketplace, and various vendors, among them Rezolve.
Yeah. Absolutely. So whoever was not working in 2017, I'm assuming most of the people here on the call were working in 2017, and the AI that you expected then is the AI that you're getting now. You had to wait for 6 years, but it is here now. Um, so how does it work, large language models? I'm not going to go into too much technology, but listen, you have used ChatGPT. You can, ChatGPT knows everything in the world up to September 2021 or something like that, and can answer on the basis of that. Apparently, what it does is it puts a word after the another. It's a predictive model, what word to put after one word. Sounds very mechanical, but the result is fantastic, right? It's just amazing. What people like us and product like us, and I will speak for ourselves, do is we allow that to be trained, your bot to be trained, and our product to be trained on a specific knowledge. So it might be your knowledge, some old documents that you have. You might have some website where you want to train it. You might even have some scripted answer and knowledge base that you've created. So our product, the way it works is you will forget everything that it knows in general. It only answer from the knowledge base that it has been pointed towards, and that's how we'll get the answers, right? So if you point it towards 5 documents, it's going to give answers on the basis of 5 documents. If you point it towards 5,000 documents, it will give an answer on the basis of 5,000 documents. That's how it works.
And just to briefly elaborate on that point and sort of clarify it for the audience. So one of the classic issues with large language models is that using the entire corpus of what they've been trained on, they may be generating knowledge from scratch, plausible sounding but incorrect things, which OpenAI has termed hallucinations. And so my question for you, Manish, is that something that is dealt with here? So the training set, the initial broad set of data used, that your model isn't ever pulling information from that or generating plausible sounding answers that aren't correct. It's strictly off the data sources that you've supplied for it.
Correct. So let me, that's a very good question. And I think we should talk about 2 things here. One is hallucination and another is privacy. So in terms of hallucination, the way, the lot of people that they're facing problem when they train this on this corpus of knowledge, and if there's conflicting information, and especially if the bot knows from its past life, which is the original language models, some information, and these information are in conflict, the bot will just, not know how to answer it, right? Or just go crazy. Those are called hallucinations, right? And the way we have taken care of that is essentially there. I'm not going to go very technical here, but I'll give you 2 broad approaches that people use. One is you give the entire knowledge base that you have and upload it. For example, if you're using OpenAI as a large language models. And by the way, there are so many large language models, right? There's Llama, there's OpenAI, there's Google has introduced something new, which is looking very decent, to be honest. So there are different language models that has come up now. OpenAI is not the only game in town anymore, right? But if you upload all these documents, most of the companies, how they're doing it is they're uploading a whole bunch of documents into the OpenAI. And then OpenAI learns how to put the word after the word after the word, depending on the question that you're asking. Now, this is method 1, right? And this method is prone to hallucination. What we are doing is somewhat different. What we are doing is we take the knowledge base and we have not uploaded it to OpenAI yet. We break it down into pieces. We apply something called vectorization on it. We use a vector database and some of our proprietary skills. And then what it does is we already break it down into little pieces, and we tag it so that when you ask me a question, I actually know what the answer is already, right? And that answer, it might be in 5 different pieces here. And I actually send the question and the 5 different pieces of answer to OpenAI. I don't send the entire knowledge base to OpenAI. And then the OpenAI answers, creates the answer, construct the answer, and then sends it down. So the point I'm trying to make is there are two different approaches here, and most of the people have taken the first approaches. So when I go to events and people come and meet me, one of the first thing people ask me, especially like technical architects and whatnot, how long does it take for your model to be trained on my data? And my answer is no time, right? Because I'm doing it differently. I know what they're asking. They're asking because they are expecting I'm using method one, but we don't use method one. Method two is less prone to hallucination. There's a clear advantage in method two as with respect to that. Talking about privacy, one quick note on privacy too. A lot of people ask how safe is it? Is the data that I'm uploading, is that data can be used to train OpenAI and ChatGPT? The answer is no. We are using enterprise grade APIs from on Azure. So we are Azure hosted solution, and we use Azure hosted enterprise APIs, which I will made available by Microsoft. So Microsoft guarantees in the agreement that they are not going to use any of the information. It will not be retained and nor will be used to train the model. Okay, let's go through some real life example how this works, right? So one of the key things that people always worry about is, will people trust the answers that the bot is giving, right? Because everyone wants to, is a little bit skeptical. Some people are skeptical about the answers, right? So here, what we do is the way we address this problem is, suppose here what you're seeing is a bot in action in Teams. So someone is going to the button saying ask a question, and they're asking a question of the bot, and the bot is giving an answer which is generated response. The interesting thing to see is that the bot actually gives citations. It is telling you where this answer is coming from. And it actually, you can go and look at the original text, source text, where this answer came from. So you not only understand that this answer is, constructed answer, but is constructed from following documents. So it might be one document, it might be 5 different documents. It will actually give you the link to the document. It will tell you where it is giving the answer from. So if you don't believe what the bot is saying, you're free to look at the original text and see it. Although we have found after once or twice, you're okay, you're comfortable trusting the answers the bot is giving, but the option is there with you. So this is how we make sure that the people trust the information. Second thing is, how does the bot learn the information, right? So I can point the bot to intranet website or any even external website, to be honest, and the bot will learn from it. You can point it to past tickets. So our bot can learn from past ticket resolutions. So if you write good ticket resolution notes, the bot can learn from that. Now, if you write issue resolved, then the bot is not going to be very helpful. So you do need to put decent ticket resolution notes. And if you do that, then you will get the benefit of that. You can point the bot to a SharePoint folder. So for example, you can have a one folder for IT issue, IT documentation, and another for program management, and third for data warehouse, fourth for customer support, fifth for HR. And you can point the bot towards that. And by the way, for each folder, you can have metadata tags. So the bot knows what kind of knowledge is in there and who the knowledge is meant for, right? So it can do that. Or you can upload the document, which is you take document one by one, upload it in our tenant, and the bot will learn it, right? So it's very simple. So just imagine how simple the knowledge management has become. There was a time when knowledge management was very, very difficult. Even with our old traditional bots, our old traditional bots were way better than the traditional knowledge management. But as compared to our older bots, the new bots are they're like really, really easy. All you have to do is to point it to a folder, and that's it. This is how you do it in our product. There's a backend, which we call very unimaginatively doc URL hub. We haven't come up with a better answer name for it, but that's where you can point it to a website or just upload the document and you're good to go. Now, this is a very common thing that people ask, will the bot learn over a period of time, right? This is a question that I've been facing for the last 5 to 7 years. And essentially, bot will learn only based on the documentation that you're providing it, right? Or it can learn from a past ticket history. So, but in the new bot, it provides amazing analytics to you. It will tell you the clutter score, right? Like if you have too much information on the same topic, which is conflicting in nature. So it will tell you the clutter score. It will tell you what kind of conversations by topic people are having, right? It will tell you if you have added some new knowledge this month, if you have not added knowledge. So it is giving you huge amount of insight on the health of your knowledge management, so that it makes very easy for you to take quick decisions on what to do next. By the way, you got to have a multilingual solution nowadays, right? Because uh, employees might be using multiple languages. They might be English, Spanish, maybe French, who knows, right? In Canada, we have multiple customers where French is mandatory, so we have no option but to have it in French. So this was again a little bit difficult with the older bots, right? I was giving hard choices to people. I was telling them, if you want knowledge base in multiple languages, either you maintain the knowledge base in multiple languages, or we will translate it real time basis. But the translation was not that great. So there were not great options for you, right? If you were multilingual. Now with ChatGPT, oh my God, you have any language literally that you can think of. The bot, converses with you in that language, and that's so phenomenal. By the way, our product by design is a multi-department product. So IT, HR, facilities, all those kind of things. We believe in enterprise service management. Now, this is another very important feature that people should know. So bot can give fantastic answers, but you should be able to give different answers to different people based on the kind of profile they have, right? So if you are a contractor versus the CEO of the company, obviously the access that both of you should have to documentation and to processes will not be the same, right? And the any product that you use should have the ability to do that. Now this is really cool. So you know I was talking about how GenAI will be used besides knowledge management, right? And this is a great example. So for example, when people are writing tickets, let's assume even in HR, right, or IT, especially IT, if some technician is writing a note on the ticket, not very likely that they are writing big elaborate notes, right? So here, for example, the person writes, I need more information, right? And boom, sent. But now what you can do is you can auto-complete it using GenAI. So GenAI can read the entire ticket history, read what you have written, and then fill it up a little bit, make it more formal, more friendly, whatever you want it to be. And also add context. If you kind of assume certain context, it can add all that context and auto-complete it for you before you send it. How cool is that, right? And this really solves a bunch of problems. Imagine you're in customer-facing scenario where you're sending out a note or something, and you want your agents to write the note in a particular way, right? Now you have that quality control thanks to GenAI right there. By the way, in our product, there's another button which says summarize the ticket for me. Let's assume there's a ticket or a case which is like 2 months old and there's 15 back and forth. Who wants to read it? Nobody wants to read it. No, you don't need to read it. You can just press a button and GenAI will summarize what has happened in this case for you in a paragraph so that you can get the big picture and then you can decide what you want to do next. How cool is that? I really like these kind of features.
It is cool.
The,
I have a sort of like future-looking question here, because these sorts of functionalities is something I expect to see, built into everyone's email within the year. In some places it's already live. There's already plugins to do that. Both Google and Microsoft are working on features to let you do this kind of thing with various amounts of context awareness. And so, one of the things I wonder about is if in the future boilerplate text will be sort of devalued, or if people will kind of get sick of excess fluff around the content, because it's now so much easier to generate,
yeah.
polite, robust messages that don't contain that much meaning because they were generated off of, 3 words kind of thing. And so I wonder, where we'll land in terms of refinement on conciseness and on like sort of content density, if we'll have some kind of metrics that are automatically built in, or better yet, something that prompts for additional information when these generations are happening, to help provide meaningful content and not just more text to read over. Because certainly if you're reviewing a bunch of these responses every day because you need to read it to make sure that what it's written for you is accurate, that will eventually start cutting into your time if it's 2 paragraphs each time. So I don't know if that's something that you've already run into with Rezolve or something that's sort of on the horizon, but curious what your take is.
I mean, my take is that this is going to be, there's a pull-push scenario. In the beginning, we are going to go on one extreme, and then people are going to get a little bit, this is not no good, and then we are going to. So what we are doing is we are actually letting people decide. So in that particular feature, you can actually decide what kind of, you want very elaborate, very formal, casual, you know, one paragraph, 2 paragraph. We are not the owners of this. You can decide how you want to do it. You don't want to use the feature, you don't have to use the feature, right? So it's really up to you. And you're absolutely right, there's going to be, so I was talking to someone, and it's such a funny conversation. So I was talking to two people, and one of them was saying that they have started generating RFI responses, RFP and RFI responses using GenAI. By the way, we also do that, right? So we are generating responses using GenAI. We have trained the GenAI on past responses, and now our GenAI can read the question and give an answer, right? But the funny thing is, the people who are reading the RFP, they're also saying we can't read all this stuff. So we are now deploying GenAI to summarize it for us. So the question then is, if you both of us are doing that, the question that really is begging to be asked is, why have that process? Right? If you're not interested in reading
Right.
it and I'm not interested in writing it, why can't we have a shorter, smarter process which does not need this Gen AI bot talking to bot kind of scenario, right? That's stupid, really. So, I mean, I think we are all going to reach there. The path that we'll take will be different, but I think we will go for simplicity eventually rather than, because, you want text, I can generate text. No, everyone can generate text now. So it should not be a big problem.
Yeah, and that is interesting. I expect that to sort of change the landscape of how RFPs happen in the future. And certainly coming from, I spent some years at Deloitte Federal, and those RFPs are pages and pages and pages, right? Like they're preposterously long. And yeah, I think I saw a quote earlier today as a broad take on large language models, and it was something along the lines of, why should I read something that someone couldn't be bothered to write themselves, which is sort of yeah, I think a pithy take on it, the question of having too much content. But yeah, it's that perpetual push-pull of getting accurate information and getting usefully concise information.
Exactly. And by the way, the last piece that I was showing you was employee onboarding. That is not necessarily anything to do with Gen AI. It's just a piece on how you can simplify the employee onboarding. But there are pieces within that that I'm going to talk about that are going to improve. For example, here, this is a problem management, right? Our problem management in our product. Problem management is a traditional thing. Done like this, the way I've described it, where the technician will go and take 20 problems that happened since yesterday, link them to one problem ticket, create a problem ticket for it. And hopefully when the problem ticket gets solved, all those 20 tickets will get closed, right? That's the concept of problem management. Now, what if instead of doing this manually, you can go tell the bot, hey, everything that happened since 8 a.m. yesterday related to Outlook, go link all those tickets and create a single problem ticket for that, right? How cool is that, right? That's the way it is going to be, instead of you having to go and do manually. So what really these kind of technologies are going to do, they're going to reduce your manual effort that you need to do by pattern recognition, by understanding. It's really like having an assistant to you. Someone used this phrase and I really like it. These technologies are power tools for knowledge workers. And I think this is so apt, right? So these are not, a lot of people are worried about, what is going to happen and so on and so forth. But, I see these technologies as a power tool for knowledge workers. If you have a nice little tool that you can use to make your life better, why won't you? This is change management. Same change management. Again, if you look at the traditional change management, it looks like this. There's our change management in the backend, but new change management is going to happen all on Teams. You are just going to tell the bot what kind of change you are looking for, and the bot will figure out how to walk you through the process of the change management. This is how the traditional catalogs look like. This is our catalog, service catalog, how it looks like. But guess what? This is the latest how service cut how you make the service request. You're just going to say, I need a laptop, and the bot will figure out what kind of laptop are you eligible for. Maybe it'll even ask a question or two. Hey, are you looking for this kind of laptop or that kind of laptop? I have two choices for you, and you're going to pick up the choices that you want. And if it, by the way, if you need an approval, it is going to go route the approval to whoever needs to do it. All this can happen on Teams, by the way. So you don't even need to go outside Teams to get your. You don't need to go to a service catalog or some portal to do any of those things. You can just do it, have a conversation with the bot, and get it done. This is
And
how
just
the dash. Sorry, go ahead,
to,
Connor.
is that piece running off of generative AI or more traditional workflows? Because I would imagine that there'd be potential difficulties with recognizing the exact laptop number or potentially having minor plausible errors in there.
So there's a huge revolution happening in that space, right? The point area that you pointed to. So there are 2 or 3 levels at which you can do it. One, you can just use GenAI to recognize what people are saying, and then after that, you can kick off a manual process, right? Which is a scripted process. This is older way of doing things. The newer way of doing things will be you will talk about it. The bot knows because it has been programmed. It knows that for this kind of service request, these are the 4 or 5 things it needs to capture. It will create that flow on the go, depending on what information you are providing, and ask the remaining questions to you and do it. It's going to be whole different experience. It's not one of the feeling is not one of the scripted flow that, oh, I recognize your intent and now I'm going to take you through a flow. Not that. These are really, really next gen flows, which will literally feel like talking to a human being, right? Saying, hey, I need a laptop. Okay. I know you're in sales. So do you want this kind? This is the one that people seem to be taking. Is this what you want? Yes. Okay. I'll recommend this memory. Okay. Fantastic. Good.
Got
Right.
it. Got it.
This is, by the way, how the traditional service dashboards look. And this is, by the way, again, I'm calling it traditional. This is our own, and this very latest actually. This is one of our newer dashboards that's coming online. But the beauty of the dashboards again is these dashboards are great, but the new way of getting information will again be via bot. You're going to say, I need this information, right? And the bot will pull out the information and give it to you right there. You don't need to go construct a dashboard in the backend. Maybe for certain things you do, right? But certain quick hits, you'll go and just ask the bot, and bot should be able to give you the answer based on who you are, if you're authorized to have that information. And this is my favorite one, email responses, right? This is a new feature which we are, I think, releasing in November. And what this feature does is you can write an email. So no matter what you do, 15 to 20% of people are going to come in via email. You can't help it. Today that number is more like 40%, but eventually, even after putting all the best technologies, 15% of the people are still going to come via email. That's the nature of the game. How about instead of sending a dumb response back to them, what about an intelligent Gen AI based response, right? Saying, oh, I understood what you're trying to say. Here's a couple of things you can try. I have already created a ticket to you. I have routed the ticket in the right place. For further information, here is where you should go. So very human-like responses, if you can. By the way, I was again at another event where there's the state governments, right? All the state governments. So they're crafting their governance policies around Gen AI. And one of the key phrases that they have is, if it's a robot, at the end of each conversation, you have to tell that you are a robot, right? Because the things between robot and humans are coming so close. That's very important to clearly tell the end user that you are right now talking to a robot, not a human being, right? At the end of an email, this is a Gen AI constructed, email and stuff like that. So it's very clear who you're talking to.
Yeah, and a quick question on that. So you have generative AI taking open format, open text emails and translating them into tickets, correct?
That's right.
So as far as having the automation do that, agentic large language models where it's supposed to take some action have, at least some of the earlier iterations had trouble with saying that they had taken the action without actually doing it. Is that something that you struggled with as part of this? Making sure that it's not just providing the response that it thinks that the person wants to hear without actually taking the action that it's supposed to. And if so, how did you address that?
So there are two, three steps to that, right? Make an API call to do something and then telling them you have done it. The other step is making an API call to do something and making sure that it has been done before telling people that you have done it, right? So there are two different steps. So typically when we are, for example, telling them that I've created a ticket, then unless until you get a ticket number, right, you cannot tell that you have created a ticket for them, right? So typically we try to give them information after the action has been done so that they because we'll get the output of the end of the API, or if it fails, then we go into exception mode, right? Like, oh, then it will go to exception and create ticket for you, right? Something, do something else basically. But yeah, so that is something initially we struggled with, but now I think we have figured it out. Now I don't know, I have not mentioned this, but we also sometime have the ability to call PowerShell scripts, right? So for example, if you want to install a software, we can actually call a PowerShell script to install the software. Then it becomes even more complicated to see, hey, have you actually installed the software? Should we tell after that? Or should we say that we have started installing your software? Because the PowerShell script can take some time and can fail later on, right? And by the time you have to, so these are the steps we have, and the product we have ability to handle either or. It's more of a preference and the context on the basis of which we have to deal with it.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's something you address a little bit more case by case in terms of taking those actions.
That's right. Generally, our view is that tell after you have taken the action, you have confirmation for it. Otherwise, go into exception. But in some cases where PowerShell script might take 3 minutes, you don't want to keep them hanging. You want to tell them that I have started the process, and But you can have another step. If once the process go along, you can still send them notification that this was done.
Got it. Got it.
So obviously you need, integrations, because no system playing alone is great. So we integrate with everything. So just to kind of summarize, right? What did we talk about today broadly in Gen AI in service desk situation? Knowledge management, absolutely. Learn from past tickets. AI crafted first response emails. Conversational reporting. Smart routing of tickets because the bot can route the ticket much better than any time before, right? And by the way, in most of the services today, you spend a substantial amount of level one time routing the emails to the right person and creating tickets and taking the phone call and creating tickets and then routing to the right person. All those kind of things are just eliminated here. um, Automatic problem ticket identification, summarization, smart flows. These are the different kind of things that a modern solution will bring to the table to you in a new service desk. And by the way, our service desk mostly is for employees, but especially for government agencies, we are doing it even for citizens, right? So they're pointing. There's a couple of cases where already things have gone live, where they're pointing it to their website, and you wouldn't believe some of these cities have websites which have like 25,000 pages on it, 25,000 pages in a city's website. And the bot, you just point the bot to that website, the bot goes through it, crawls everything, learns it, start answering questions on the basis of that. So really something that's very, very difficult to do otherwise. You just didn't have a solution for this so far. So these are the different use cases that you see within service desk. And by the way, I do believe that broadly talking about use cases, that employee support is one of the safest area to start with. Knowledge management, employee support is one of the best areas to start with GenAI, because a lot of leaders are thinking about how should I start? What is the best use case? In my opinion, it's very intuitive, right? Like easiest gain that you can get is by unlocking your enterprise knowledge, which is hidden all over the place. You just unlock that and give it to employees. Just do that much. Even that is enough. You're going to get immediate productivity lift throughout the enterprise. And then you can go and build from there.
So
Roadmap. Yeah, go ahead, Con.
a question on sort of that knowledge base. When you crawl a bunch of information from a website, be it 1,500 pages or otherwise ingest a bunch of unformatted text, um, how do you then sort of customize responses about that content by role? Traditionally in a knowledge base, that would be done by tagging and metadata and other items related to each sort of knowledge article that could help you distinguish what it related to or who's allowed to access it. So in this sort of like broad fire hose intake model, how does that happen?
So you can point to, so it's still happening pretty much the same way, right? We are attaching metadata tag like at a document level or at a folder level, or sections of website level, right? Typically in website, public facing website, there's no like everyone is a guest and guest has access, right? Maybe there can be two kind of people, guest and non-guest, right? Something like that. But in future, you pointed out towards a very interesting thing, because in future, what we are doing is we are going to auto-generate the smart tags, right? So we already are working on this, where the tags will be automatically generated. So if you can read the text, GenAI, they can also generate tags based on what we tell it as a huge guideline, right? So that's where this is heading, where the manual work will eventually go away. But these are steps that we are taking. It's so much to do in this space. Every month we give a release on generative AI, and already next 3 months are planned out, and there's so much work that we can do. You can keep making the product smarter and smarter and smarter. There's literally no end to it.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'm gonna pause here and see if how are we doing on time. I think we took around
Yeah,
45 minutes. So maybe you can pause and see if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah, typically we leave 10 to 15 minutes for questions. The chat has been pretty quiet as far as anything coming in, but I'll have 30 seconds or so of silence here to let people figure out if they have questions and then formulate them. So feel free to unmute and hop in, or if you're not able to unmute, feel free to drop something in chat and I'll read it out. So I'll ask one of the sort of traditional questions that we get here that I'm sure someone would probably have at some point, which is, what impact might you expect to jobs from this, right? Is this automating whole roles? Is it automating parts of roles? How do institutions handle the change management around it? What do you see in the future?
So clearly, I mean, like I said, these are power tools for knowledge workers, right? So I really do not see any way that enterprises are not going to eventually use it, right? Some might use it today, some might use it 6 months from now, some might use it a year from now, but everyone is going to use it. And what it is going to do is that, it's going to make everyone more efficient. But whenever we become more efficient, I mean, if you think about any generic enterprise, think of your own enterprise, right? I'm thinking of my own enterprise. There's so many things we want to do, and we want to do it faster. And there's no end to the amount of things we want to do. It's not like I'm running out of things to do, right? I have so much more to do. If I can write codes 20% faster, I would, and I am, right? We are already writing code 20% faster thanks to GenAI. So the point I'm trying to say is that, I don't foresee a situation where people are going to be like, we can do the same job now with three people, right? So what are we going to do with the fourth person? The chances are the fourth person is already required in so many other places of your enterprise and so many other projects that were waiting in balance, that you're going to say, give the 4%, say, let's get this done. I have been meaning to get this done for so long. Let me get this done. So I know the pendulum swung, people are really, really worried about it right in the beginning. And now people are getting a little bit more normal, right? They're a little bit less concerned. And I think there's reason to be less concerned. I think the bottom line is efficiency will go up, no questions about it. But we are hungry for efficiency. We need to get more done because honestly, all of us don't have the most efficient organization, myself included, right? Like I want to do so much more done. If I have 20% more capacity, instead of firing people, I'm just going to use that 20% more capacity and get things done faster.
Yeah, I broadly agree. In terms of how this will play out, and it's rare for automation to impact the entirety of someone's role. It's mainly cases where it makes jobs so much more efficient that there's even a potential for headcount reduction. And to your point, often there's a lot of internal projects that time can be spent on. Um, Another question that is often top of mind for folks is transparency. So, we can imagine a scenario where there's an HR flow that's a request for leave, and an institution might choose to automate that, and someone could have a leave request denied, right? And there are some states where that could become a regulatory issue or a legal problem. And so, how do you handle the question of being able to trace why an AI made a particular decision, or how this judgment call was made for accountability and transparency?
So honestly, I don't see AI making any decisions, right? So the way most products are evolving is AI will assist, it'll bring the information in front of you, it'll put all the factors in front of you, but the decision, final person who pulls the trigger on anything will be human, right? We are going to decide, right? Nobody else is going to decide. So I have not seen any use case so far, right, where AI is going to decide. Now, it might happen in like, for example, insurance, right? If the car, I've heard of situations where it's easier to take a decision to pay out. Let's say there's a car accident, minor car accident, right? The value is $800. For insurance company, it's better to pay out based on AI decision rather than involve a human and spend $1,000 on it, right? Doing back and forth, right? So, so in some cases, we will err on the side of making payouts or doing whatever easier thing to do, right, which is better, which is but less expensive. But I hardly see a situation where AI is going to say no to someone and open you up for additional risk, right? That is something that nobody is going to do if at all you let AI take an addition, right? First of all, I don't see the situation where AI is going to take a whole lot of addition. But if you let AI take addition, what you're going to do is you're going to give it softer decisions where you're actually taking positive outcome where there's no risk for you, right? But you just reducing the cost because it's operationally more efficient. But rather than letting AI decide on negative things, which is opening you up for risk, you're not going to do that.
I do think that that's definitely best practice. I don't know if that'll be as universal as you might hope. Certainly I have seen cases where it is that exact framing where there's an automated decision process for like a fee waiver sort of thing,
Mhm.
where it's a positive decision, and so it's fine for an AI to make it. But also CFPB, I think, just released some, they're not an actual regulation, but guidance on transparency in AI for things like adverse action, so loan decisioning, or decisioning on renters based on like an AI processing a background check sort of thing. And this could extend into using AI resume review tools, which have been around for years and years at this point. So I think we will see AI and are seeing AI for adverse decisioning, but that's definitely more fraud, right? And that's where more regulatory
Yeah.
attention is.
Yeah, I mean, you're opening up you for someone can sue you eventually, right? Like someone whose resume get rejected, they can sue you for bias, right? So if you're taking those chances willingly, then it's your and your shareholders' choice. But I think the easier and more simpler choice will be to take those positive outcome decisions and reduce the cost. That'll be the easiest one to do and less expensive. and then worry about the negative ones and how you can automate that better. But without letting the decision go to AI, they'll be fraught with risk.
For sure. And then if there aren't other questions, I wanted to ask sort of where do you see tickets going? You mentioned that you think that ITSM portals are going to go away for self-service.
Yeah.
Are we still going to have different ticket types and ticket entry forms? What's the future of that?
No, I don't think so. The reason we used to have different ticket types was because we are trying to enforce the users will provide us right information for different scenarios, right? Scenario A needs 4 information, scenario B needs 7 information. How do I make sure that the people are giving me the right information? Anyway, they were going to portal theoretically and they were opening a ticket and they were filling the information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the ticket type be type A and type B. But now you don't need that anymore because AI can be intelligent enough to ask the right questions and fill the information. So you can have a single ticket type, which reduces a whole lot of work and just fill it up, right? That's what we are doing. We are moving towards. We will give the ability for you to create ticket types if you really, really want to, right? If you want to create 15 ticket types, go for it. We are not going to stop you. But but you don't need to because the bot will understand what it needs to ask and what information it needs to gather and pull it in the ticket type. It doesn't need a ticket to be a particular structure to put it. It can put the right information in the body and you'll still be happy. So I think this is the whole thing is going to get simplified. A lot of products are going to become obsolete because of how they think, and hopefully people will quickly adapt to this new way of thinking. We are certainly going to give them option to keep thinking the old way if they want to, but I have a feeling a lot of people are going to switch to new way of thinking.
Yeah, I agree. And that sort of adoption tends to follow a pace of sort of how young and tech forward the audience is, right? I mean, it's like with conversational AI and the contact center, the sort of traditional way, right? So like touch tones to navigate in IVR, that there have been good alternatives to that by natural language processing for years, probably coming up on a decade at this point. And yet a lot of institutions still have it, right? Because it's hard to switch off it when you have members who aren't very tech savvy and want to do things the same way they've always done it. Sometimes they just really want to keep that touch tone system. So I imagine for a number of our clients, it'll be a slower rollout, or they'll be preserving some of that. But the advantage of having a sort of internal facing product is that as long as your institution is agile enough, you can adopt that sort of innovation. And I imagine that Silicon Valley and all of the other more tech forward areas of the economy are going to be at the very front of that adoption curve.
Absolutely. I've had discussions with service desk, which, for example, there was a company which doesn't want it to come out of Jira because they have invested into 30 different ticket types generated in Jira. And we told them in future, right, you won't have to, you don't need these 30 different ticket types. And that's just like it blows people's mind in the beginning. How is that possible? How will that work? But all this is going to happen. We are going to see all this, right? It's a matter of 6 to 8 months at most. In our case, we are going to launch it within 3 to 4 months, but in most companies, 6 to 8 months, I'm expecting maybe a year, right? Most smart companies, at least I'll see. But I'll also tell you the truth. Some companies are just not going to make it, right? If you remember the old AI bots when they were launched and Teams interface was launched, it has been 5 years, and some companies have not made it to that point. So, so I see there's going to be huge vendor reshuffle that is going to happen between companies that can figure this thing out and companies that can't figure this thing out.
Absolutely. Any other predictions for the future or things on the roadmap you want to share in our sort of final 4 to 5 minutes?
No, I mean, listen, we can look only 3 months ahead nowadays. More than that is difficult. OpenAI and all these guys keep coming up with new features, right? In next month, I think OpenAI is coming up with a bunch of more features. So the scramble right now, the tough point is so much is happening so fast. And so you need to stay focused on what do you want to do and what is the value to your clients, right? There might be 2,500 things going on in the world, but what is it that you want to do in next 3 to 4 months? That far ahead we can think. There was a time when people used to think 5 years ahead. I mean, all that is gone. If you can think 3 months ahead, you're doing good.
I think that's a great point to make, especially in our business as SRM, where we're making, helping institutions make 3 to 5 to 7 year contracts. And as everyone's sort of wondering what's happening with rates, and we're looking at 30-year mortgage rates, and it's like 30 years ago, the internet was new, right? So the amount of change that's happening and the pace of it is insane. So I think that that's a sensible planning horizon, and probably there's a takeaway there for all institutions, really, that you need to be better at executing quickly. If it takes you 2 years to finish building out and launching a solution, someone may have built a new product, or maybe OpenAI has released a new feature that just completely scoops it or revolutionizes it, right? And you don't want to be stuck with that product for another 4 years after dumping a few million into it, right? So I think we may see shorter sort of license horizons, or more demand for shorter licensing agreements, as well as a push to implement faster, just because that pace of change is relentless.
So I actually, just to add to that, I think that, you always say, right, focus on your business, let others do the things that they're really good at. That is going to accelerate, right? Because I think I wouldn't know, for example, how to run a credit union. Maybe a credit union person will know that really, really well because they're focused on it. But they might have to outsource certain pieces to other people who know that piece best, because every of these segments are moving so fast that unless until you're focused totally on it, you're going to miss it. There's no amount of people, you can't hire 3 people and say, hey, now I'm going to be on top of what is happening in GenAI. Impossible, right? I'm running a fairly decent sized company, and I can tell you it's difficult for me to keep up with everything that is happening. So I think that outsourcing model is also going to get a push, where people are going to say, this is not my core competency. There's no way I can keep up here. I need to really focus on my core competency and be the best there. But other things, it's okay to engage with someone who is the best in that area.
Agreed. And I think that it's also going to be a push towards globalization, right? I think 11 Labs recently released like a sort of two-way conversational translator, and it's like a where you're translating the language and synthesizing voice to eliminate an accent, right? So that sort of thing is going to facilitate offshoring tremendously, right? As it gets better, as it gets faster. So yeah, I agree that we're going to see more outsourcing, more offshoring, increased globalization, and utilization of these sort of specialized talents, with fewer barriers than ever before. All right, I see we're at time, and a lot of folks are having to drop off. So last call for questions. All right, well then, thanks so much everyone for joining, and a special thanks to Manish. A really excellent presentation, great content, wonderful chatting with you as always. And till next time, everyone. This recording will be up on our website, as well as on our YouTube, if you want to go back and review any part of it.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening.